It begins with an elevator, a box of steel, mirrors, and silence. But that night inside the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, the elevator was no longer just a machine. It became a stage for a nightmare. A young woman enters. Her name is Elisa Lam. She presses buttons frantically, as if the floors above cannot save her fast enough. The doors stay open. They do not obey. She hides in the corner, her hands twitching and gesturing like signals to something unseen. She steps out, peers down the hallway as if stalked by a presence invisible to the camera. Then she vanishes. The footage would circle the globe in days, watched by millions, dissected frame by frame. People swore it wasn't just fear in her eyes, it was a duel with something that doesn't belong to our world. The most disturbing part? Elevators close in seconds. This one refused to close at all. Time itself seemed broken. Days later, guests complained of strange water from the taps, foul taste, weak pressure. The staff went searching, and there, inside a sealed rooftop tank, they found her, floating, dead. Her story is not just about a girl, not just a hotel. It is about forces, hidden, ancient, and corrosive, that leave fingerprints in plain sight but vanish when you try to hold them. The Cecil Hotel did not just swallow her. It transformed her into a symbol of everything mankind fears but refuses to confront. What you are about to hear is dangerous knowledge. Once you know it, you cannot return to ignorance. Elisa Lam was only 21 years old, a student from Vancouver, Canada. She traveled alone, documenting her journey on Tumblr. Her posts were raw, poetic, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, haunted by her struggle with bipolar disorder. Yet there was a fire in her, a hunger to see the world, to wander streets she had never walked. She should have been safe, she should have lived, but she checked into the Cecil Hotel, a place that carried more than a century of death inside its walls. Suicides from its upper floors, prostitutes murdered in its rooms. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, slept there during his killing spree. The building was nicknamed the Suicide Hotel. To the locals, it wasn't just cursed, it was a magnet for darkness. And so the question burns, did Elisa choose the hotel, or did the hotel choose her? Some say the Cecil is not simply a building, but a gate, a point where human tragedy collects like water in a poisoned well. Step through its doors, and you are already being pulled under. Elisa walked into its lobby as a traveler. She would never walk out alive. The elevator video, February 2013, released by LAPD to the public. At first glance, it looks like surveillance footage, but it became something far stranger, an artifact of terror. Elisa enters. She presses multiple buttons, one after another, like someone trying to break the machine, but the doors do not shut. She steps out, back in. She peeks outside, as if someone is right there, but invisible to us. Then, her hands. The strange, twisting, curling motions. People online said they looked like signals, symbols, almost ritualistic. Not fear, but communication. And the anomaly, the elevator itself. Doors held open for minutes, impossible under normal mechanics. A system built to close automatically suddenly behaves as if another force commands it. Millions watched. Paranormal forums exploded. Some said Elisa was playing the Korean elevator game, a ritual meant to summon spirits by pressing buttons in a certain sequence. Others whispered she was already possessed, fighting something only she could see. But here is the detail they don't tell you. The official video was altered. Experts spotted missing seconds, cut frames. The timeline doesn't flow naturally. Evidence was tampered with before we ever saw it. Someone wanted us confused. Someone wanted the truth buried. The police report painted Elisa as unstable. They leaned on her bipolar disorder, as if a label could explain the impossible. But the truth is more corrosive. Elisa had been on medication, yes, but her online journals revealed she was self-aware, intelligent, and lucid. She was not delusional. Something else happened in that elevator, something that the medical reports refused to address. Her autopsy was a maze of contradictions. No drugs, no alcohol, no signs of trauma, no drowning in the usual sense. Her lungs contained less water than expected for a death in a tank, and yet, there she was, floating inside a sealed container only accessible by a locked door, a ladder, and a heavy lid. No fingerprints, no footprints, no alarm triggered, no camera caught her final steps. To believe the official version, you must accept that a young woman climbed onto the roof of a notorious hotel undetected, opened a massive water tank, crawled inside, and sealed herself in, alone. with no struggle, no sound, no witness. It is a theory that collapses under its own weight. The Cecil Hotel is no stranger to unsolved deaths, but Elisa's case was different. It carried echoes, as if history itself was repeating in grotesque form, because the pattern of her disappearance matched older legends, whispers from Asia, and rituals tied to water, spirits, and restless souls. Elisa was not just a victim, she was a message. Water, the essence of life, and yet, in myth and ritual, water is also a gateway. Cultures across the world describe water as the threshold between the living and the dead, rivers where souls cross, wells where spirits hide, oceans where gods devour sailors whole. Elisa's death in water was not random, it was symbolic. The very tank that held her body became the medium through which hundreds of guests drank, bathed, and consumed her essence unknowingly. For weeks, the water of the Cecil carried her memory into the bodies of strangers. This is not mere tragedy, it is ritual consumption, a modern form of communion with the dead. Some whispered it was a curse, others believed it was sacrifice. The timing of her death coincided with lunar cycles and occult dates marked by secret societies. Patterns appeared in her Tumblr posts, strange images she reblogged, stairways, dark hallways, cryptic quotes about drowning. Were they signs, or was she chosen long before she arrived? The Cecil Hotel had become an altar, and Elisa Lam was the offering. The Cecil's history cannot be ignored. Built in 1924, its walls soaked in ambition and rot. Within years, the stock market crash turned it from luxury to ruin. The desperate and the damned filled its rooms. Prostitutes, addicts, criminals. The walls absorbed screams. The carpet absorbed blood. It was here that Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, slept after nights of killing, his victim's blood still fresh as he returned to his room, unnoticed, unchallenged. Jack Unterweger, an Austrian serial killer, also lived here, strangling women with their own bras while posing as a journalist. Dozens leapt from its windows, some crushed pedestrians below. The Cecil became a vortex, a black hole that fed on despair. And in occult theory, places of repeated death become charged. They are not just haunted, they are activated. Energy loops within the sounds, intensifying with every tragedy, until reality itself bends. By 2013, when Elisa Lam entered, the Cecil was already more than a building. It was a living organism, hungry for another soul. Let us return to the elevator. Those gestures, her hands twisting, curling, were not random. Body language experts tried to decode them, but they overlooked the oldest knowledge. In many cultures, these shapes mirror mudras, ritual hand positions meant to summon or repel forces. The way her fingers bent outward resembled signs used in Buddhist and occult traditions to communicate with the unseen. Did Elisa know what she was doing, or was she being forced? Some believe she was performing a ritual unknowingly, her body hijacked. Her movements, sudden pauses, nervous peaks, frantic hiding, fit the profile of someone trapped between two realities. She was not alone in that hallway. Something was there, something the camera could not capture. Then, silence. She vanishes. Hours later, no record of where she went. The elevator finally obeys and closes its doors. The last witness of her life was not human, it was a machine. Machines do not lie, but men do. After Elisa disappeared, the hotel carried on as if nothing had happened. Guests checked in, drank the water, showered in it. Some complained of the taste, the color, the pressure, but management dismissed them, until one guest climbed the stairs to the roof and discovered what others had ignored. The water was tainted with death. The police arrived, but their investigation was sloppy, rushed. They offered explanations before the evidence was complete. They called it accidental drowning. Yet the very access to the tanks was nearly impossible. The rooftop door was locked and alarmed. The ladders were steep, the lids heavy. No young woman could climb in without leaving evidence. No scratches, no bruises, no signs of struggle were ever recorded. It was a crime scene, disguised as an accident, and worse, it was a ritual hidden in plain sight. Why Elisa? Out of the thousands who stayed at the Cecil, why was she chosen? The answer may lie in her own writing. Elisa's Tumblr, Nouvelle Nouveau, contained years of posts, fragmented thoughts, cryptic quotes, images of staircases, hallways, and drowning metaphors. She wrote about invisibility, about slipping through cracks, about losing herself in cities. To the untrained eye, they are just the words of a lonely student, but to those who understand patterns, they are invitations. Someone was watching her online long before she stepped into Los Angeles, someone who saw not just her words but her vulnerability. She was not random, she was marked. This is how secret groups work. They choose the broken, the sensitive, the seekers. They use them as vessels, sacrifices, messengers. Elisa was all three. The autopsy raised more questions than it answered. Her body showed no signs of sexual assault, no drugs, no alcohol, yet the toxicology was incomplete. Tests were left unfinished, samples were mishandled. Why? For such a high-profile case, every detail should have been scrutinized. Instead, it was buried under vague terminology. Even stranger, her clothes, found floating in the water, separate from her body. Why would she undress inside the tank? Some claimed it was paradoxical undressing, a symptom of hypothermia, but the LA climate did not match those conditions. Others believed it was evidence of ritual cleansing. In many rites, the removal of clothes symbolizes rebirth or sacrifice. Elisa's nakedness was not random, it was symbolic. The autopsy was not an answer, it was a cover. And then came the internet. The footage of the elevator was released. Millions watched, millions obsessed. People across the world tried to decode her gestures, her behavior, the missing frames. It was the first viral true crime mystery of the modern age. But this too was part of the design. The release of the footage was not transparency, it was theater. A performance meant to distract from what really happened. The world argued over mental illness, ghost theories, conspiracies. Meanwhile, the truth was buried. Attention itself became the ritual. Every click, every replay, every obsession fed energy into the event. Elisa was not just consumed physically through the water, she was consumed digitally through our screens. Her death was amplified into myth just as intended. Consider the timing. Elisa vanished on January 31st, 2013. Her body was discovered February 19th. In occult numerology, 18 days of silence hold power. 18, the number of bondage, of life force drained, of cycles broken. This was not coincidence, it was design. During those 18 days, the Cecil Hotel continued to function. Guests lived on the edge of a hidden corpse, unknowingly participating in the ritual. They brushed their teeth with her essence, cooked their meals in her presence. It was contamination on a spiritual scale. In some traditions, this is known as the Feast of Shadows, a death absorbed by the living, binding them all into a single ritual. Elisa's body was not just a corpse, it was an offering distributed across hundreds of strangers. The Cecil was never an ordinary hotel. Since the 1920s, it has been a hive of darkness. Suicides from upper floors, overdoses in hallways, murderers using its rooms as hunting grounds. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, lived here while terrorizing Los Angeles. Jack Unterweger, another killer, followed in his footsteps. These men did not choose the hotel by chance. They were drawn to it. The Cecil is a vortex, a place where suffering accumulates. Some buildings carry history. This one carries hunger. Elisa did not just stumble into danger. She walked into the stomach of a beast that had been feeding for nearly a century. The rooftop itself holds its own secrets. Many investigators pointed out that the water tanks are not easily accessible, yet Elisa was found inside. The official story claims she somehow evaded the alarm, climbed a locked ladder, and lifted a heavy lid, all without being seen or heard. Impossible, unless someone let her in. The rooftop is not just a restricted space, it is ritual space, elevated, hidden from the street, open to the sky. In many traditions, rooftops are chosen for sacrifices, closer to the heavens, removed from witnesses. Elisa's death site was not accidental, it was chosen. Her final known movements, the elevator footage, have been dissected endlessly, but what most viewers miss is the symbolism. Her frantic hand gestures mimic mudras, occult signs used to channel energy. Her stepping in and out of the elevator resembles ritual doorway movements, as if she was testing boundaries between spaces. Some argue she was hallucinating, but what if she was participating, knowingly or unknowingly, in a ceremony? Her behavior does not match randomness, it matches patterns. Patterns seen in older rites of summoning and dismissal. Elisa was not just panicking, she was performing. After her death, strange echoes surfaced. In Canada, where Elisa was from, an outbreak of tuberculosis occurred shortly after her disappearance. The test used to detect it, Lam Elisa, the same letters as her name. Coincidence or another signature in the pattern? True power leaves fingerprints, not always in blood but in synchronicities, strange overlaps, hidden jokes. Her death was not isolated. It rippled outward, into health systems, into media, into culture, like a coded message, waiting for those with eyes to see. The Cecil tried to wash its hands clean. It rebranded as Stay on Main. New paint, new signs, new marketing. But you cannot repaint a curse. Guests still whispered about shadows in the hallways. Workers refused to go to certain floors at night. Even the elevators seemed to move by themselves. Buildings like this are not just brick and mortar. They are containers of memory. And memory can never be exorcised by a logo change. Elisa's presence lingers, not just as a ghost story, but as unfinished business. Look closer at the date of her discovery, February 19th. On the occult calendar, this falls near the ancient festival of Parentalia, a Roman rite honoring the dead. For 9 days, families offered food and drink to spirits of ancestors. What better time to complete a ritual involving water, consumption, and the dead? Those who orchestrated Elisa's fate understood timing. They knew when to seal the act, when to reveal the body. To them, her death was not tragedy, it was alignment. And then, silence. The case was closed. No suspects, no trial, no accountability. Just endless speculation. The police walked away, the hotel carried on, and Elisa's family was left with emptiness. But silence itself is a tool. It creates room for myth to grow. Elisa's story became larger than evidence, larger than truth. She was no longer a victim. She became an archetype, the lost girl, swallowed by the city, consumed by forces unseen. That transformation was the real goal. Her story reveals something uncomfortable. The world is filled with places like the Cecil, nodes of suffering, magnets for broken souls. You pass them every day. Hotels, hospitals, abandoned factories. They look ordinary, but inside they collect despair like dust. What happened to Elisa was not a one-time event. It was a demonstration, a reminder that the system does not protect you, that darkness feeds in ways you can not see, and that sometimes the very walls around you are not walls at all, but jaws. Think about the water. Guests drank it, bathed in it, cooked with it. For weeks, Elisa was inside them, a communion of the unwilling. This is not metaphor. It is physical truth. Hundreds of people absorbed her essence. To those who understand ritual, this is power. To make the living ingest the dead is one of the oldest forms of transformation. Cannibalism disguised as plumbing, sacrifice disguised as contamination. The guests became participants, whether they wanted to or not. Elisa's online presence remains frozen in time. Her Tumblr still receives visitors. Her words echo back like whispers from a diary that never closed. Some claim to feel her energy when they read it, as if the posts themselves are haunted. But ask yourself, why is it still active? Why has it not been erased, shut down, forgotten? Because it is still serving its purpose. It is still a doorway, still drawing attention, still feeding something unseen. Every unsolved mystery hides a lesson. Elisa's lesson is not about safety tips or mental illness awareness. It is about perception. What you see is not what you are told. Official reports are stories, carefully constructed. Behind every accident, every suicide, every disappearance, there are threads that connect. The Elisa Lam case is not just about a woman in a water tank. It is about the machinery of silence, about how truth is buried beneath paperwork, while ritual is hidden in plain sight. Some claim she was targeted by individuals practicing dark arts. Others insist it was systemic, an institution protecting itself. But maybe the truth is worse. Maybe the building itself required it. Some places demand sacrifice. Some places cannot exist without periodic offerings. The Cecil Hotel is one such place. Elisa was not its first. She will not be its last. Why does her story haunt us more than others? Why do we replay that elevator footage year after year? Because deep down, we recognize something. The gestures, the fear, the unseen presence. We have all felt it, alone in hallways, in dreams, in the moments when we know something watches but we cannot see it. Elisa is not just a victim, she is a mirror. Her story forces us to confront our own fragility in the face of forces beyond our control. The authorities say the case is closed, But cases like this are never closed. They are left open deliberately because the mystery itself is the fuel. If the truth were revealed, the energy would stop flowing. But as long as the world debates, wonders, obsesses, Elisa remains alive in a different way. She was turned into an eternal question, and questions are far more powerful than answers. So when you think of Elisa Lam, do not think only of the girl in the elevator. Think of the system that allowed it, the hotel that swallowed her, the silence that followed, and most importantly, the ritual we all became part of when we watched, when we shared, when we remembered. Her death was not just her own, it was ours. This is not just a story about the past, it is a warning about the present. There are Cecil Hotels in every city. There are Elisas walking among us, fragile, unseen, marked, and there are forces waiting, watching, hungry. The question is not, what happened to Elisa Lam? The question is, when it happens again, will you even notice?